All right, this is for all my home skillets that are gone today. Basically, what you're going to get is the notes and the activity that we did in class, and you can watch this and follow along. Make sure that you do the activity that we did in class on your own. You only need to turn in the answers. You don't need to print off the sheet or anything crazy like that. So I'll just go over the material and you can take care of the rest. All right, this is during a time period when we're really encouraging the United States to stay neutral. We really felt like it wasn't any of our business, but not everybody felt that way. Some people were for the war, some people were against it, and that's why we had divided loyalties. Okay, one belief was that no involvement unless our interests were threatened. And this was a feeling for a lot of Americans that we should stay out of it, that it wasn't really any of our business. But remember, we are a new country, and so we have a lot of people that feel very strongly tied to their homelands. And there you go, Americans tied to homelands, especially the German and the Irish, the Central Powers. That's going to be our bad guys. They were tired of British domination and they actually wanted to kind of see them get their butt whooped. But most people, because of their background, are going to side with the British and the French. Now, where does American opinion lie? It's going to sway back and forth, but things that are going to be influential for us going to war are going to be the attacks on Belgium. We talked about this last week. When Germans marched through Belgium, they just didn't march through Belgium. They killed a lot of people, they damaged a lot of property, and they kind of went through with force. People did not like that because remember, on average, Belgium is notoriously neutral. But people really didn't like is they killed a lot of civilians. Now we can break this down into different viewpoints. Viewpoint number one, an isolationist. War is not any of our business. Okay, this is not our battle to be fighting. This is European. We should stay out of it. Perspective number two, the interventionist. If it affects American interests, we need to get involved. We need to protect not only our economic interests, but our world affairs interests. And then the last one, an internationalist. An internationalist plays an active role in the world affairs, and they believe that we should kind of be the middle ground, that we should help sort things out. Now, things that are going to help us sway our opinion to get more involved in the war are some upcoming activities that the Germans do, including a blockade. All right, the German blockade. What happens is the British decide to blockade Germany. When you blockade somebody, they are unable to get the goods they need to survive. Because this is prior to airplanes, a lot of stuff is brought in by boat. So with this blockade, they blocked the ports. The idea is that they would still be able to get medical supplies and food, and that weapons and articles used to fight war could be confiscated by belligerent nations. Well, it's kind of taken to the extreme, and eventually everything is blockaded. Okay, Britain expanded contraband until it included basically everything, and that includes food and medical care. So where you have countries where the men are all out fighting and farming's not really working out because they don't have enough workers or the war is taking place there, what we are going to run into now is a large amount of people in Europe starving because they're not getting food or the medical attention they need. All right, U-boats is our next one. Unterseeboots. February 1915, they start sinking Allied ships. Okay, if they're anywhere within their coastal region, these U-boats are taking them out. Here's where we get a little fuzzy. May 7th, 1915, they sink the Lusitania. The problem is the Lusitania is not a battleship. The Lusitania is a passenger ship, and it was right off the coast of Ireland. Yes, there were American passengers on this boat. Their argument is going to be that they should have been warned and the passengers should have been able to be removed, because Germany's reason for sinking the passenger ship is that it had weapons on it. Now, some historians say there were no weapons, others say there were weapons. We don't know. It's in the bottom of the ocean. But after the sinking of the Lusitania, Germany promises not to sink any more passenger ships until they sink a French passenger ship known as the Sussex a few months later. So moral of the story, can't trust a German. All right, so between that and the Zimmerman note, which we'll get to later, we decide it's about time for us to start prepping for war. As we remember from the chart that we saw last week, we only have less than like a half a dude. So we need more men. How are we going to do this? The National Defense Act is going to help expand the size of the Army. We also need more ships. That's what the Naval Construction Act does. We're going to build more warships. And then finally, we're going to enter the war. Okay, by the time we enter in January 1917, there are severe shortages due to the blockade. Europe is really suffering. They've had tons of death. This war is going nowhere. It's just miserable. So when we Americans show up, fat and happy, they like to call us doughboys because we're all pink and shiny and ready to fight. Now, here's the thing that really throws us over the edge and says, okay, it's time to go to war, is the good old Zimmerman Note. Okay, the Zimmerman Note is a proposed alliance with Mexico and Germany. And the idea is, and this comes from the ambassador, is that when Germany won, if Mexico helped out, they would help them get back those lost southern states of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Unfortunately for the Germans, this note is intercepted by the British and, of course, handed over to the Americans. Okay, at this point, too, the Germans have also announced unrestricted submarine warfare on Britain. So that means if you're a boat and you're in a Untersee Boots region, you're going to get shot down. We're not a big fan of that because remember, there are no planes. So if you need to go from America to Europe, you're going to be taking a ship. So by April 2nd, 1917, Wilson is going to ask Congress for a declaration of war on Germany, and now we're going to enter the war. Okay, it's going to pass. I think it passes, not unanimously. I think there's one voted no. I can't remember who it is at the top of my head. It's not really that super important. But lucky for you guys, we're having a video today. We're going to do just a little piece on the Red Baron. Now, we've talked about this quite a bit, and airplanes were not a huge deal in World War I. They will be in World War II. In terms of World War I, they play a very minor role. But there is one very, very popular guy. He was known as the Red Baron. And of course, there's a commercial first.
Pop in a whole new kind of clean with Tide Pods. 3 chambers, 3 times the stain removal power. Pop in, stand out.
Hello, I'm Jim Flink for About.com. Today we're profiling the life and military career of the man known as the Red Baron, Manfred Albrecht Freiherr von Richthofen of Germany. Perhaps one of the most legendary fighter pilots to have ever lived, Richthofen was a member of the Imperial German Army Air Service during World War I. He's regarded as the most successful pilot of that war, registering 80 air victories. As a member of German nobility, Richthofen could have been officially titled a baron. However, it was actually because of his military notoriety and the fact that he had his fighter plane painted red that he gained his nickname. Richthofen began his service during World War I in the infantry, serving in Russia, France, and Belgium, but ultimately was thwarted by a series of obstacles, quite literally, most notably barbed wire and machine gun fire, preventing advancement of German troops. It was there that Richthofen saw his first German plane engaged in combat. Intrigued by the air battle, he quickly asked to be reassigned to the air service. In the air, Richthofen was hailed as a brilliant tactician, and his method of attack earned him both accolades from allies and the fear of his rivals. Most notably, he would position himself to dive into attack formation from above with the sun at his back, in effect blinding his opponent from being able to fight on an even keel. Richthofen had several close calls prior to his death. He was wounded in battle in July of 1917, shot in the head, and forced into convalescence. But he returned to battle just 2 months later, though the effects of his wounds, including nausea in flight, never left him. Richthofen eventually was killed in battle in April 1918. He was in pursuit of a novice Canadian pilot and seeking a kill when another Canadian, Captain Arthur Roy Brown, intercepted Richthofen and was able to fire a shot that pierced Richthofen's chest and heart. Even the Red Baron's death, however, remains the subject of much discussion. Many military analysts believe the gunshot that killed Richthofen was actually fired from the ground. Richthofen was at first buried in France, but his body was returned to Berlin after the war. His remains were then moved once again in 1975 to Wiesbaden, where his headstone remains to this day. And that's a look at the life and military career of the Red Baron. I'm Jim Flink. Thanks for watching. For more information, be sure to check out About.com.
All right, that is the Baron. Now let's talk about the Zimmerman Note. What you need to do is you need to either download or read this from the file that I'm going to put on the wiki page, and it is exactly the note from the German foreign minister. It was a coded telegram, and it was intercepted by British intelligence. They decoded it, and they said, "Hey, America, take a look at this. This is some information that you may want to know." So make sure you read this and you answer all of these discussion questions here at the bottom. Again, you do not need to print this sheet. You can just read it off the wiki page, answer the questions on a separate sheet, and turn them in. Now, don't forget about your other assignment, which is page 170 and page 179, numbers 1 and then 4 through 6. And hopefully I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.